Hi, my name is Jaslyn, and in today's presentation, I will be talking about the novel The Wars by Timothy Finley and how it relates to everything that we've learned throughout this course. I will start off by talking about literary theory and what it is, as well as how it relates to the wars. Literary theory is the body of ideas and methods that authors use in a practical reading in literature. It not only means the work of literature, but the theories that reveal what literature can mean. In this case, there are many examples of literary theory in the novel, an example being how the author used ideas such as trench warfare and methods such as loss of friends and family in a war environment for reading literature. Finley also used literary theory by taking ideas and facts about how the war is, what people go through, and methods of war to interpret into a novel. Next, I will be talking about literary devices and how important they are in literature today. Authors use literary devices to give poems and novels a better meaning and the reader a better understanding of what the author is thinking and feeling in the exact moment. It is a way to express feelings through context. In the wars, there are plenty of examples of literary devices. For example, imagery was used when Robert is forced to kill the injured horse on his ship. Finley used imagery in the situation so the reader can understand why Robert felt so bad for the horse. The imagery in this case is when Robert imagines his sister's chair being tipped over, and this brings guilt to Robert. Finley uses imagery in this exact moment so that the reader can understand how Robert truly feels. Another example is juxtaposition. Towards the end of the novel, Finley uses juxtaposition to compare the actions of soldiers and animals. Robert yells, "If an animal had done this, we would call it mad and shoot it." This shows the cruelty of soldiers and how if they were animals, they would have been put down immediately. But because there is a war going on, they are blindly accepted. Finley uses this literary device to show the comparison from animals and humans to allow the reader to understand that animals are nothing less than humans. Lastly, another example of a literary device that Finley used is foreshadowing. During the beginning and the end of the novel, when Juliet witnesses Robert shooting a tree and destroying it, it shows Robert's other side. Also, when Juliet witnesses Robert and Barbara having intercourse, it is explained as if they were hurting each other, which is foreshadowing for when Robert is molested by his inmates in his cell. These are just some examples of how Finley used literary devices in his novel to attract the reader's attention and to understand what Finley is trying to portray. The author, Timothy Finley, also used some poetic devices in the novel to interpret the beautiful rhythmic qualities of language. He uses third-person omniscient, which is a form of point of view where the narrator knows all of the thoughts, feelings, and actions of all characters. Finley also uses imagery to show poetic devices in the novel, using the example I stated before. But he did not use a lot of poetic devices because it was not intended to be a poem. It was meant to be a novel, which is why there are more literary devices than poetic. Furthermore, Finley uses a theme throughout the novel, which is psychological, which means the affecting of the mind related to the mental and emotional state of a person. Finley uses this throughout the novel because going into the war affected Robert's mind greatly, and before Robert was a soldier, he had his innocence, and as he didn't want to or had any desires to do any inhumane things, he still did as he went into the war and became a soldier. His innocence was slowly getting stripped away from him, and he began doing inhumane things without remorse, regret, and things that he initially wouldn't ever imagine doing. He was emotionally abused with his sister dying and him being molested, so going into the war was not a good choice for him at all, as it entirely destroyed him, both mentally and physically.